Namaste everyone. Guten Tag, Grüß Gott, and hello. I'm Sanjay. I'm heading the Indo-German Chamber of, Indo-German Network in Munich, which is a non-profit organization initiated in 2009, and it was renamed Indian Entrepreneurs Forum last year in November. Uh, and we are organizing this S.H.E Summit as one of the series of events which we have initiated in the last few weeks after the time actually gave us an opportunity to do this because of Corona. And I know that many of you have a kind of a Zoom fatigue and online meetings which are continuously going on. But through this series of events, we want to offer you an opportunity to connect to various leaders, business leaders, startup leaders, and different networking possibilities so that you can meet people and hear their experiences from the Indo-German business space. We are being supported by this event is being supported by FICCI, FICCI, and Atal Innovation Mission from Niti Aayog in India, as well as we have again a few partners like the German Accelerator Program from Berlin. And the Longhouse Partners is a company which is technically enabling this event. This chapter specifically called S.H.E Summit, See Her Empowered, has been initiated by Neha. She is a marketing coordinator for the IEF organization, as well as she is a student of MBA Innovation Studies in TUM Munich, and she is a global product manager at Infineon Technologies AG in Munich. So she herself has a journey behind her, and she would like to know definitely from the main speakers how we can learn. You are actually open and welcome to write your questions in the chat box from any time you wish to. And we'll have a initial session of say around 35 to 40 minutes, and the last 15 to 20 minutes we'll have a Q&A session. So Neha, I would hand over the stage to you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for introducing IEF and also for your kind words. So good afternoon, everyone in Germany, and good evening back in India. Thank you for joining the session 2 for the S.H.E Summit, a nonprofit initiative, as just Sanjay told, by Indian Entrepreneur Forum. S.H.E stands for See Her Empowered, is an idea of bringing diverse cohort of Indo-German women entrepreneurs and successful leaders to share their journeys, challenges, and core principles around their business functions with well-seasoned professionals and also interested enthusiasts like you all across the globe. I would like to welcome you all to the session of Ayurveda as Preventive Healthcare by Dimple Jangda herself, founder of Prana Healthcare in India. Ayurveda is a primitive science of holistically healing the body. It is based on the belief that health and wellness depend on a delicate balance of mind, body, and spirit, which is much needed in this era. Dimple Jangda is a celebrity Ayurvedic health coach, TEDx speaker, and founder of Prana, an Ayurvedic health center started in November 2017. The center was awarded India's most trusted healthcare center for the gut and colon health by Brand Better in 2019. The center has treated over 1,900 patients from 45 different countries of chronic diseases, including multiple sclerosis, neurological disorders, gynecological disorders, musculoskeletal issues, gastrointestinal and skill disorders. During the course of the first 45 minutes, this would be like a dialogue session with Dimple. And I would also encourage audience to place their questions in the chat while we are discussing. And if you have something in the mind to be clarified, please feel free. And with that, let's begin the session. And I would also like to express our gratitude and to Dimple to spend an hour with us despite of her busy schedule, joining us hands in this initiative of the S.H.E Summit. And I would like to also kindly ask her and give her the platform to introduce herself briefly to the audience. Thank you, Dimple.
Thank you so much, Neha. I think you've already introduced me well, so thank you for that, and thank you to Ashutosh Baheti and Sanjiji Tambe for creating such a beautiful platform where people can learn, interact, and where wisdom and knowledge can cross borders and be of use to humanity. So this is what this forum is all about, that we learn from each other's experiences and we don't have to make the same mistakes that someone else did. That's the beauty of humanity and experience. You don't have to go through the mistake to become an expert at it. You can learn from other person's mistakes. That being said, this has been an incredible journey. To briefly just add to what Neha said, we have the healthcare center in Mumbai, and we've crossed patients from 49 countries now. We also have launched the Academy for Ayurvedic Life Sciences, where we bridge the gap between professional Ayurvedic education and our daily life by releasing short masterclasses of 5 days, 10 days, where you can study Ayurveda and learn how to incorporate it in your daily life. Ayurveda is not something that you must go to when everything else has failed. Ayurveda is something that you practice every single day, like how you breathe, how you do yoga, how you do pranayam, how you eat food. Ayurveda is a manual that Mother Nature has given, teaching us how to take care of this piece of nature. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to bridge the communication gap, the language gap, the cultural gap, the time gap that has happened in the last 5,000 years. And now we're trying to make this education as available as possible to students, young children in schools and colleges. We've tied up with Jain University, and we've done this workshop for free for almost 20,000 participants from the 85 schools and colleges of Jain Group, and almost like another 20 corporates, 25 corporates. Like, we just keep doing this workshop with the hope that even if one life is changed per workshop, that is one family that is changed, and that will lead to a spiral, lead to a ripple effect where the whole nation will change and the whole world will eventually change. The whole idea is to preserve a part of Indian heritage, the Indian knowledge and wisdom, for our future generations, so that they have actually something to inherit from us, not just cars and homes and debt and equity and pollution. You have to give them something real to inherit from you, something that actually adds value to their life. And that's where the wisdom of preventive healthcare, like yoga and Ayurveda, plays a role. It teaches you how to never get sick. Why wait to get sick to learn how to treat your body? And recently, thanks to the demand during the pandemic for everything natural, everything green, we also launched our Ayurvedic skincare hair care range. And very soon we'll be happy to be in Germany for all of you to try these products. So this is a little bit about ourselves. And thank you so much for creating this platform, Neha. I'm very happy to take the questions that you've already planned for us.
Thank you very much, Dimple, to introduce prana and the whole concept of Ayurveda to the audience. But let me begin with an interesting fact about Dimple herself, because not many people know, though they know Dimple Jangda as, the Ayurvedic health coach, but not many people know that she actually is an investment banker from the profession. And she has taken almost a 180-degree turn in her professional career path, moving from investment banking to being a health coach of Ayurveda. So that was also very inspirational for me personally, Dimple. And I think I'm pretty sure everybody would here be equally curious to know about what made you change this path, and who inspired you, and what inspired you to choose Ayurveda as your domain of interest, where there has been several alternative medicine as options out there. So yeah, I'll be very interested to hear that part.
So you know what? I had to do the entire circus before I could arrive at my niche, at my strength, at my calling. I was an investment banker, like you said. Before that, I was also a TV producer with CNBC. I was producing TV shows. Before that, I was a TV reporter. And before that, I was an advertising copywriter. So I was the jack of all trades, master of none. Like, I had literally jumped 4 professions, and finally I was saturated. So the thing with me is I get bored very quickly. So in case anyone wants to be friends with me, just remember that I get bored very quickly. All right. So you have to keep me challenged at all times. So every time I hit a saturation with any career, I would quit the job. And my resume is probably the kind of resume that no HR manager wants to read. Like, every 2 years, I'd quit the job. I'd be like, what next? I'm done with this. Give me something more challenging. So investment banking happened. I had my dream job in New York City. I had my dream company, my own company. I was advising clients in Chicago. I was traveling to and fro, and I thought I had it all. Like, when I looked at my bucket list, I was checking off all the boxes. I was flying business class around the world, living a very high-rise life in like expensive hotels, and rubbing shoulders with the who's who of Chicago and New York, like the political world and the business world. And it seemed amazing on paper. It seemed very glamorous also on Instagram, obviously. But something happened, in 2014 during Christmas. I just couldn't tell why I was feeling empty. I was not feeling anything. I was not feeling happiness. I was not feeling sadness. I was not feeling depression, which people, usually say that, oh, I went through depression to be able to find my calling. I just couldn't feel anything. And that numbness hit me. I guess that's what people call spiritual bankruptcy. You did not invest in your spirit. You invested in your bank account. You invested in your resume, your career track, your trajectory in the corporate world. You didn't invest in your spirit. So I packed my bags, left it in storage in New York, and I haven't since looked back. I have actually left everything there and came back to India thinking, I'm going to go to a yoga camp and just do yoga with my grandfather and detoxify and everything. I spent a year traveling around the world. I did about 10 countries in 11 months. I went like from Paris, Antwerp, Amsterdam to Zurich, Istanbul, London, and I landed in India as a tourist in my own country. And I was spellbound by what I saw in the countryside. People were incredibly happy, and I couldn't explain. They were incredibly happy with bare minimum necessities, bare minimum comforts, bare minimum materialism. And there was no sign of anxiety, stress, and depression. And this was in the countryside of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, which I had the opportunity to travel alone and experience the bliss. And I was feeling incredibly happy. And I couldn't explain. And I was like, wait, this is very strange. A year ago, I couldn't explain why I was feeling empty. Now I can't explain why I'm feeling happy. And I was like, I'm going to bottle this happiness and sell it to the world, and I'll become a multi-billionaire. That was my investment banking mind talking to me, saying, how do we make a business out of this happiness? So I kept researching. I was like, how can I put happiness in a bottle? So it's not going to be drugs and steroids and antibiotics. It can't be anything that's harmful to nature or to mankind or to humanity. So it has to be something that's natural. And that's when Ayurveda chose me. It just happened through conversations. People kept hearing about my journey, saying, oh, I hear you want to set up something that's going to be health related, because health and happiness go hand in hand. When you're healthy, you're happy. When you're happy, you feel healthy. So I was able to equate that equation based on my experience of growing around in an expat community. I said, no matter what language we speak, what community, what ethnicity, what country we come from, we had something in common: our pursuit of happiness and health. No matter which part of the world you're from, you're all pursuing the two same goals, health and happiness. So I said, okay, let me put this in a bottle. And someone recommended, go to this Ayurvedic village in Kerala. I said, okay. I went, I struck a deal like a businesswoman, like a banker, in a hot pink dress, and I made a fool out of myself because all the men who were sitting in that room were wearing wraparound skirts, not even trousers. So they were that traditional and they spoke perfect English. So I was like, oh my God, I did a bad boo-boo. I should have been dressed traditionally for this meeting. But there's been no looking back. And Ayurveda humbled me, grounded me, broke that fake ego that we develop over a period of time as we keep achieving things. It grounded me in a lot of ways that no matter who you are, when life comes to an end, when death comes knocking at your door, you're going to dissolve back into nature, into those 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, space. You can't take anything with you. Your credentials, your credibility, your visiting card, your bank account, you can't take anything with you. How humbling is that we come from nature, we go back to nature, and nature is the mother. Nature rules how we feel, how we eat, how we drink, how we live. Even our emotions are controlled by nature. You feel incredibly happy when you're forest bathing, walking through a forest, right? But if you were walking through a polluted area, don't you feel upset? Don't you feel angry? Your emotions, your mind, your wavelength, your vibrations, the ojas, the energy, the prana that we talk about, it all comes from the universe. It all comes from nature and goes back to nature. And nothing can heal us. Nothing can care for us. Nothing can fix our diseases, our brokenness, our emptiness better than nature. No matter how much we've abused nature, she's always there waiting with a herb, saying, this is a herb that you need to drink now, to fix this, whatever you've broken inside of you. They say for every disease, there is a herb, there is a cure. For every malady, there is a remedy that nature has. You just need to trust and go with the flow of the river. So that's how Ayurveda chose me, and there's been no looking back since then.
Extremely interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Dimple. Which also makes us think that, Ayurveda in itself is such an elaborate science. And you, as a young leader, how did you encompass so much of knowledge in such a short time frame? That's also intriguing for us.
So how I started out is, when I started the clinic, I hired doctors and therapists and, a team. And I thought they will be fully capable of running the place. I thought I just had to do the finance, the accounts part, the supplies and the deliveries, and make sure that everything is going smoothly. But I think nature had a powerful lesson to teach me. Like, if you're going to run a business, you better know it in and out. You better know all the A to Z and all 1 to infinity about that business. You can't just rely on your team to run the show. If it's your passion that's driving the business, you better have the knowledge to match that passion. So I started spending all my Saturdays and Sundays and late nights and early mornings studying as much as possible about Ayurveda. And when people ask me if I graduated in Ayurveda, my question is even better, because my answer is even better because I actually apprenticed under the 4 doctors who were running my clinic. I learned from the experiences. I learned from the life case studies that were going on in the clinic. I learned from the treatment and the progress of a multiple sclerosis patient learning how to walk, or a paralysis patient speaking, kidney stones, gallbladder stones dissolving. So I learned from the life case studies, and research and continuous studying is what helps you stay ahead of the game. Like compared to other Ayurvedic centers, I wonder, like, what is different about us? Why do we have patients from 49 countries, not just one country, India? What is bringing people from around the world? Because we're constantly bridging that cultural gap, communication gap. We're constantly translating what the doctors are saying to the patients. And this is what we specialize in. We bridge that gap. Ayurvedic wisdom is very complex. It's very hard to digest. It's like a neem capsule. Forget capsule. It's just like neem leaves. It's very difficult to digest. It's very wise. There's so many layers of technicality and complexity to it. We digest that information and make it easy for the other person to consume it, to swallow it. And we break it down into easy to apply dinacharya tips, daily regime, or ritucharya tips. Or we've actually also created a manual called the Ayurvedic diet, which didn't really exist in Mumbai city. People didn't even think about it. Just like how you have different blood groups, we have 7 body types of Ayurveda. We said, how about we have a specific diet chart for each body type that helps you prevent the diseases that you're inclined towards. So we started out with that. We started bridging the gap. And then we realized, we don't want the patients to keep coming back to us. How do we do that? Besides giving medicines and treatment, I said, okay, I have to educate them on what they were doing wrong. You've eaten 1 million meals in your entire lifetime. You eat 3 times a day. That's something that is never going to stop. Maybe what you're eating is wrong, that's causing that discomfort or the disease or the imbalance in your body. How about we fix it at the root cause? So we started advising on the nutrition part. Then we said, when the lockdown happened, we don't have contact with our clients, because we can't do treatment. How do we educate them? So we started teaching Ayurveda, the 5-day course. We packaged it in a 10-hour masterclass. We said, here, learn how to take care of your body. Learn how to fix common diseases like, cold, cough, allergies, and indigestion, bloating, gases, or constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome. So you don't have to go to a doctor. How do we educate them that they can become the doctors of their own body? So we just kept solving one problem after another problem, and we arrived at where we are. Also, I felt like, the beauty of this journey in the last 3 years has been learning how to marry traditional 5,000-year-old Ayurveda with modern research and development. What humanity is good at is research and development. The West is excellent about it. The East is excellent about the knowledge of herbs. So if you can marry that, the research that they've done about, say, neem or Philanthus niruri or Brahmi or Guruchi, take that research. The proven benefits of colon health, how colon is responsible for 90% of the diseases. They've proven it. Harvard, Stanford, Atlanta, Georgia, Maryland University, they've all proven it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And they don't have to reinvent the wheel by trying to discover medicines for humanity. Ayurveda has already done that job. They've already done 5,000 years of work on medicines and herbs that are good for them. When we marry these two, the research and the solution, then we have something that can save humanity. And this is the era of immunity, not just humanity. This is the era of immunity. If you have immunity, you'll survive not just the COVID-19 pandemic, but all other pandemics that are due to come in the coming years, because this is not the first pandemic we've had, and this is not going to be the last. And you have to only invest in your immunity in such a way that it becomes a defense mechanism and the virus passes through your body with minimum or no collateral damage. That's where modern science and Ayurveda can come together and pivot a new era of immunity. And this is how I think I've arrived at where I am, including this platform of IVF, where I just keep investing as much time as possible in studying. And this is something that I think we should do till the very end of our days.
That's an incredible thought. I couldn't agree more to that, Dimple, that leaders are constant learners as well. Speaking of which, Ayurveda is fundamentally based on different type of doshas, and these are associated with different types of the body parts that we have, and they are triggered differently as well. They also define our immunity, as just you mentioned. So could you give us some insights on what sort of different types of doshas we have and how they get triggered in our bodies?
Sure. So I'll give you like a brief about it. Like, if we keep talking about it, it could probably take another 5,000 years for us to complete this conversation because that's how rich Ayurvedic wisdom is. But I'll give you a tip of the iceberg. I'll give you a very brief understanding of what's happening inside the body and outside the body because both are nature. Nature outside your body and nature inside your body. Uh, Everything in this universe, all plants, animals, birds, human beings, all living and non-living objects are made up of only 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. And when these 5 elements come together, they create harmony, balance, wellness, and good health of body, mind, and emotion. Even if one element goes out of balance or becomes excess or becomes incapacitated or less, it can lead to diseases connected to that element. For example, fire. Fire is connected to diseases of the skin, of the digestive system, the stomach, of blood, of fat, sweat glands, and the eyes. So too much of fire or less of fire can lead to diseases or imbalances in that region. When these 5 elements come together, they become the 3 biological building blocks of this universe. It's called kapha, pitta, and vata. So for example, earth and water comes together to become kapha, water and fire comes together to become pitta, and air and space comes together to become vata. Everything in this universe has a dominant dosha. For example, say if I'm looking at a bottle, this bottle is kapha dominant. It has a very specific form and structure, and it's never going to change shapes. If it starts changing shapes, then you might want to throw it out of the house. It's probably possessed by a demon, right? Or it's probably just melting and reacting to climate change. My human body will have a dosha dominant in it. Like, for example, I'm a pitta dominant body type. Fire and water will always be more dominant in my body compared to earth, air, and space. And Ayurveda as a manual has already given me information that since I'm fire and water dominant, I must eat foods that are earth, air, and space dominant. Just like me, foods also have a prakriti, just like you and I. Chili, for example, is a pitta dominant. It's predominantly fire and air. The minute you eat a chili, it sets your tongue on fire and you're airing out your tongue and trying to drink milk. That's a great way to remember the 2 elements in a chili. Milk is kapha dominant. It's earth and water. Sweet potato is kapha dominant. Cabbage or a cauliflower is vata dominant. So every vegetable, every fruit has its own dominant personality, dominant nature. So I can actually balance my body by eating the exact opposite food that my body needs. Since I'm a pitta dominant, I'll avoid eating spicy foods and sour foods and salty foods. Instead, I'll eat more sweet, bitter, and astringent foods. And sweet food actually is great for my body. So my friends and my cousins find it very confusing. I'll be eating bowls of sweets every single day and I'll be losing weight. They're like, what the hell is happening? How can you be eating sweets and losing weight? I was like, that's the beauty and magic of Ayurveda. It tells me what to eat. And you don't even have to go to a gym and work out for hours together to burn those calories. Your body starts balancing itself and starts repairing all the damaged tissues, muscles, and nerves because you're giving food that is suitable for it. I'm giving more earth and air and space to my body, which already has enough fire and water. So now I have all 5 elements in balance. All my 3 doshas comes in balance. And there is a line in Ayurveda that says, Samma dosha, Samma dhatu, Samma agnishya, kriya, mala kriyaya. It means all my doshas, kapha, pitta, and vata, the 3 biological building blocks are in balance. 7 dhatus, the 7 tissues in my body are in balance. My metabolic fire is in balance. And my body is able to eliminate all kinds of toxins on time. That is a sign of good health of not just the body, but also mind and emotion, because Ayurveda says, and it's proven by modern science, that all diseases have a psychosomatic origin. You cannot separate the mind and the body. They go hand in hand and they have a 1:1 relationship. If the mind is unhealthy, the body will replicate that disease at the cellular level. If there's a disease in the body, the mind will not be able to find peace and happiness. So it is a 1:1 relationship. So this is how Ayurveda begins. And this is literally just the tip of the iceberg. I've just scratched the surface. I'd love for everybody here who's joined us to consider studying Ayurveda. You can study in any part of the world, doesn't matter, English, German, French. We have launched a few courses. We'll be very happy to launch some with IVF also as, a complimentary course for you guys. Study about your body, because it's kind of strange. Let me give you this funny example. Monkeys didn't go to a university or a college to learn how to climb a tree and get certified in order to climb a tree. They climb a tree. We eat food every single day, but we have to run to a nutritionist to teach us how to eat food. How ridiculous is that? Would you have a monkey running up to a consultant to learn how to climb a tree? No. You cannot run up to a nutritionist every now and then to teach you how to eat food for your body type. You have to learn what prototype is this body, and you have to learn what fuel you're putting inside this. When you buy a car, you're pretty efficient on knowing what fuel to put in it. You buy a diesel car and I challenge you to put petrol in it. You'll be like, no, it's an expensive vehicle. I'm not experimenting with it. I know this only runs on diesel. Then why would you put the wrong fuel in your body without learning or reading the manual on this body? That's what Ayurveda is. Ayurveda is a manual from Mother Nature that teaches you how to take care of this piece of nature. It's a language that Mother Nature uses to communicate with our body, and we use it to communicate with our food. It's also a science, it's also an intuitive intelligence and an art, and we already had it when we were born. We craved mother's milk and not pizzas and burgers when we were born. It's just that we started abusing that intuitive Ayurvedic intelligence in our body, which is why now we're eating all sorts of wrong foods and running to doctors every second day, which shouldn't be the case. You should already know what is good for you, and Ayurveda can guide you in that direction.
Dimple, I have a follow-up question to that because, modern day allopathies, if you have a specific problem, it's measurable. If you take allopathies, you can do blood test report, you can figure out what impact it had. Now, let's say if somebody says, I'm a Vata Pitta person or a category, and I have oriented my diet plan according to specific Ayurvedic food style to improve, what are the measurable entities or KPIs Ayurveda provides? How can I check that I have, reduced my Vata Kapha, or I have created a balance of something which is, more quantifiable for me?
So this is where modern science and Ayurveda can come together, because traditionally Ayurveda measures your dosha imbalances or your prakriti by doing something called Nadi Pariksha, where they check your pulse and they tell you which dosha is high or which dosha is low. So you have to depend on a Vaidya, an Ayurvedic doctor, who has the wisdom to check your Nadi. And the level of intelligence varies from one Vaidya to another Vaidya based on the experience, just like a new surgeon versus a surgeon with 20 years of experience, right? It's the same rule. Now, during the pandemic, we realized, we didn't have to always touch the pulse. Of course, this is 120% accurate when we touch the pulse. But the experience of the doctors are so rich, we've been able to create quiz where you answer a series of questions on the kind of teeth, nails, hair, skin, digestion, metabolism, bowel movements, sleep patterns, dreams and nightmares you have, hereditary conditions you have. You answer a series of questions and you can arrive on what is going on inside your body. So there is a series of questions which requires self-analysis. Now, when an Ayurvedic doctor treats a disease, however, we marry it with modern science. We would know when we check the pulse that there's a disturbing signal, say, for example, coming from the gallbladder. We've had this case where, a patient had a disturbing signal from the gallbladder, and we said, you might want to check what's going on inside your gallbladder. There could be some imbalances. She said, I feel perfectly fine, no pain, discomfort. And I kept pursuing her saying, no, you have to do a checkup. She went for a sonography and she discovered that she had a 13 stone in the gallbladder. Now, this is the problem with the human body. Like, there could be diseases or symptoms growing inside your body and you don't know. Suddenly, one day you wake up with an excruciating pain or you're bleeding and you run to the doctor and they put you on the surgery table the very next day because the situation has got aggravated to the point that it has to be surgically fixed. It's become an acute condition. For acute diseases, we have modern medicine and allopathy. For chronic diseases, we have Ayurveda. So here she did a sonography. She was able to come back to us. We were able to put her on medicines to dissolve the stone so that she didn't have to go for a surgery or wait for things to become too late. This is where modern science and Ayurveda can come together, because Ayurveda, like I said, is a traditional science. And what happened during the freedom movement, during the colonial rule, is all Ayurvedic colleges were shut down. They were not allowed to practice surgeries. They were not allowed to run hospitals. So a lot of R&D was lost during those 300, 400 years of struggle. Now we're waking up. It's been just 60, 70 years that the colleges were allowed to reopen. We have to catch up. And this is where, if modern science can allow Ayurveda to function in equal proportion, like a partner, like a relationship, like a marriage, they have a lot to offer each other. At the end of the day, allopathy medicines also come from nature, right? They are molecular. So instead of having the whole herb, they take out the molecules from that herb and replicate it in the clinic. So literally, we're talking the same path. And Ayurveda invented surgery, which allopathy now practices. And now allopathy doctors are deciding whether to give permission to Ayurveda doctors to practice surgery or not, which is strange. Surgery was invented by Ayurveda. So you're basically deciding whether to give your mother the permission to give birth or not. The fetus is deciding, wait, you're not allowed to give birth to me, but the fetus is fully grown, 9 months old. What are you going to do? You can't choose what the mother can do and not do. That's why Ayurveda is called mother of all sciences, the mother of all healing systems. And it'll be great if it gets us due position soon.
I think you're working towards that quite aggressively.
Yes,
um,
that's the word for it.
and I think let's take a practical problem now. I think as this event is also dedicated to women leaders and agnostic to gender, I think our lives have become so competitive that stress has become, an integral part. No matter it's an unknown stress or known stress, you just are in stress. So I think a lot of people also in the audience would like to hear out, simple from their kitchen tips from your side that they could bring in their daily practice, from getting up in the morning to sleeping up in the night, how they can integrate Ayurveda as a part of their routine life that also helps to keep stress balance at a good level. It's,
Okay,
yeah.
that's a great question. And I'm glad you said this is a gender agnostic question. It doesn't matter that it's just a women entrepreneurs forum, but it's for everyone. Okay. Stress catches up with anyone and everyone. And we all go through stress. Like I would probably go through stress too. Even a sage or a monk would probably go through a little bit of stress, when they're trying to solve a problem. Now, this is a great technique that you can all practice at home. Close your eyes while I'm saying, if you want, and visualize this entire universe. It has existed for a few billion years. And it's going to exist for a few billion years. What is your lifespan in that few billion years? In that chapter of the universe's lifespan? 80, 90, 100, 120 years? Does it matter to the universe that you exist? Does it matter to the universe that your problems exist now? Not at all. Whether you care or not, the universe is going to continue to exist with or without you, with or without your problems. That's one. Now continue visualizing the earth from really, really far, from up in space. Look at the earth. What does it look like? Like a tiny blue dot, beautiful from space? Can you see yourself from space? You're not even a tiny speck of dirt to this planet, to this universe. It doesn't matter to the universe what problems you have. No matter how stressed you are, no matter what you feel about this problem, the sun is going to continue to rise tomorrow morning. It's not going to cancel on you. There is always going to be air for you to breathe. There's always going to be water for you to drink. There's always going to be food on your plate and a roof over your head. Stressing about it is not going to change anything. It's only going to drain your energy, your battery. Instead of giving away all my energy to this monster called stress and allowing it to grow out of size, out of proportion, I would like to save this energy to sleep peacefully, eat food, and move into problem solving. Instead of stressing, divert your train towards problem solving. And the more you keep solving problems, the more you keep moving forward. This is one way of realizing that your problems don't matter to the universe. The sun is going to continue to rise. This is a great way of humbling yourself that life is going to go on. That's one way. Second, the universe is your mother, nature is your mother. Follow the circadian rhythm of the sun. If you want to beat stress, you have to wake up early, which I'm trying to practice too. The 5 a.m. club, wake up before sunrise. The early bird catches a worm. You beat stress because stress is never going to catch up with you because you're way ahead of the game. You're way ahead of the curve. Waking up before sunrise allows you to get vitamin D and the best rays of the sun. You know what a plant needs to survive? You see a plant going through stress and anxiety and clinical depression? No. There are only 3 things that the plant needs. It needs daylight, water, and nourishment from the soil. That's all. You and I are just like the plant. There's nothing extraordinary about us. Our pride, ego, identity is all man-made. We're just like the plant. We also need just nourishment, water, and daylight. So daylight is your first source of energy, of prana. Prana means life, source of life, which is what my healthcare center is also called, thankfully, with the grace of the universe. Wake up before sunrise, take the prana from the sun. The sun is there to recharge you, fuel your batteries, and follow the circadian rhythm of the sun. Eat a small breakfast when the sun is rising because your metabolic fire is small. Eat a big meal during lunch because the metabolic fire is big. Eat a small meal before sunset. After sunset, retire home and sleep before 10 p.m. That's a great way of beating stress and anxiety. And if you're struggling with sleep, you can just have half glass of milk, half glass of water, and a pinch of nutmeg, which is called jaifal. Boil it together, just a pinch, don't overdo it. It has a numbing effect on the mind. It stops you from overthinking problems. The problem is just 5%, 95% of it is your reaction. So it helps you to numb down and go to sleep so that you can wake up tomorrow morning and start solving the problems instead of just stressing about it. So these are just two techniques: following the circadian rhythm and having food based on the position of the sun. These two things can beat stress and anxiety better than any other drug or steroid. And of course, there's a whole lot of panchakarma treatments, that we recommend. Shirodhara, which is dropping medicated oil on the forehead in a rhythmic fashion. We've seen a lot of our patients come out of clinical depression within 24 hours. Of course, they got very optimistic and excited, and we said, don't get so excited and stop your pills immediately. Give it some time, because what it does is it stimulates your pituitary gland, which you can't reach out through your hands. You can't massage your pituitary gland. It's right in the middle of the brain. And the pituitary gland is the size of a walnut. That controls your strategic abilities, your intuitive thinking, your ability to foresee the future and make good decisions. But that's got fluoridated due to fluoride in the water and due to contamination of our ground level waters. By doing Shirodhara, we can actually release all the toxins from the pituitary gland, bring it back to its pink of health instead of it being white. That's a great way of treating clinical depression. It's a proven method with amazing results, I can assure you.
Thank you, Dimple, for sharing that. I think making that into a practice is something that we need to learn and get disciplined with. And I think hopefully we feel less stressful in our daily lives using those tips. Ayurveda is a science, 2000 years, almost like, I'll say hundreds or even 1,000 years back. And I think it must have seen a lot of transformations itself. At least I presume that. So, for example, practices like panchkarma, etc., where ancient people used to survive on, how this has changed. What is panchkarma today of the modern life, and how we can practice this also in our daily environment.
So back in the day, everybody practiced panchakarma at least once a year, which is detoxifying the body of toxins. This is basically a process of reversing the aging process of your organs and your body, and improving longevity, adding 20 years more to your life, removing diseases out of the body. This is something that people back in the day used to do every year, and every culture had its own method of detoxification. In Ayurveda in India, we call it panchakarma. What has happened in the recent days is we've stopped practicing this. We've stopped practicing detoxification. Like when you have a child, you give a child a pill for deworming, right? When they're kids, or even to your pets. We've stopped doing that after we grew up. That's why we're riddled with worms and parasites and diseases. We're not letting go of the toxins from our body. Ayurveda is a science that treats diseases at the root cause level, which is the ama or the poison or the toxins accumulated in your body due to poor digestion or wrong combinations of food or wrong consumption of food or pollution of food, water, air, which has entered your body. Ayurveda pulls the toxins out. And if there is no toxins or poison in your body or heavy metals, there is no room for diseases. In the modern day, what I see a lot of our students, our clients, patients, and practitioners and followers doing now is they've started practicing simple regimes, dinacharya regimes like oil pulling. It pulls out the toxins from the face region, the phlegm, the mucus, the kapha imbalances, the vata imbalances, the dental gum health issues. Gargling your throat takes care of your thyroid. Make sure that you never end up having, thyroid issues. Also make sure that you don't end up having kapha imbalance. Then doing a full body massage or a abhyangam. This is something that some people do once a week. Back in the day, people used to do every single morning for 20 minutes. And then they used to do an udvartana, which is a dry powder massage every single morning to detoxify the tissues, increase blood circulation, and pull all the toxins towards the gut and eliminate it out of the body through the morning ablutions. Now, people are going back to these methods because the stress anxiety levels has gone through the roof because you're not aligned to nature. When you're in disconnect, disharmony with nature, that's when you end up with what is called disease. Disconnect, disharmony leads to disease. So you have to reconnect back to natural regime, bring the harmony back into your life, and have a healthy relationship between you and nature. Because there's a saying in Ayurveda that a man or a woman who's not in a healthy relationship with his environment, habitat, topographic, geographic conditions, and the climatic conditions, which is called Ritucharya, Ritu, season, ends up having lifestyle diseases. Lifestyle diseases are caused due to not following the seasonal regime. So this is where now in modern day, I see more people now becoming aware and conscious. At least the ones that I'm surrounded by are all into Ayurveda and they believe in it. At least they have no choice when they're around me. So I see most of them practicing these simple methods of detoxifying the body on a daily basis instead of waiting for it to get accumulated and cause some kind of a chronic acute organ failure, organ damage. So this is how people are evolving now. And it's good. It's good that we're going back to nature finally.
Dimple, because you are really working on the core of bringing this whole idea of Ayurveda on global grounds. What sort of challenges you, as a preacher of Ayurveda as a practice, have faced, while preaching this concept altogether on the global grounds out there?
So the first thing that I faced was a communication gap between the doctor and patient. Like the doctor had a lot of technical wisdom. My Vaidyas speak in a traditional regional thick accent, but their wisdom is unparalleled. Like I've literally just received a drop of their wisdom. There was a communication gap. What the doctor was communicating, the patient heard it out, but probably left the room saying, I'm not going to eat these medicines. A lot of times I would have to catch the patient right when they were leaving the doctor's cabin, and I would have to sit them down and explain why the doctor gave this medicine, which part of the organ is being treated, how the unhealthy colon has caused these issues. So we would go through the whole leaky gut syndrome, unhealthy gut, unhealthy colon, and all of that. So that's the first challenge I faced, which was communication gap. And we started fixing that by creating a lot of research material in the form of pamphlets, which was loaded with information from Harvard, Stanford, which proved to them that this is a problem area, hence this solution works. Then, as we started having patients from around the world, language gap happened. But I was very fortunate that we had some of our own clients who worked with different embassies who ended up coming to the clinic to be a translator between the doctor and patient. So we did consultations in Spanish, French, and the patients underwent treatment, came out thanking us in their foreign languages. We couldn't understand, but we could tell from the happiness on the face that they were really happy with the treatment. So the language gap happened, and there were people willing to step up because they felt the benefit of Ayurveda. They wanted to share that happiness with others, and they stepped up, from the embassies and the consulate saying, we'd like to be a translator for you wherever you need us. There was a cultural gap also. Like I can tell in India, have ghee in your diet every day. But when my French clients come, they get shocked when I tell them to have ghee in their diet. They're like, why? But they have enough grease and fat in their diet. They have a lot of fermented foods and butter and cheese, which is fermented, so they don't need ghee. So there comes a cultural gap in understanding how to make Ayurveda easy to use in a different country, in a different culture, in a different community. How do I make someone who's living in the Amazonian tribe? We have students from the Amazonian tribe as well, and from the Red Indian tribe, the indigenous tribe, practice Ayurveda. I bridge it or connect it to the existing practices in the Red Indian tribe, the indigenous tribe. They already have a lot of practices rooted to nature. So I'm literally just guiding a ship back towards her own roots, which is also Ayurveda, because Ayurveda is Ayu plus Veda, knowledge of life. So it doesn't matter if it's practiced in India or Spanish or in German or French, it's still Ayurveda if it allows you to improve the quality of your life. And each culture, each community has its own intelligence. So we literally sometimes just point the students back towards their own culture, saying, hey, that is Ayurveda, what you were practicing, having fermented foods during winter, or having whiskey or bitter liquor or wine during the winter. That's a Ayurvedic practice of enhancing your metabolic fire in that country, not in India, because that's only going to cause inflammatory diseases, because wine is not native to India. So this is where we played a role, and it was challenging in the beginning. But if you focus on the problem gets bigger. But if you focus on the solution gets better. So this is how every single day we'd wake up in the morning saying, okay, what are we solving today? What's the problem? Let's solve it. We'd go head on and just keep solving problems. So adding one day after another day to our success story.
Dimple, I'm actually forced to ask you this because you have, a very captivating shine on your face, an amazing level of energy, and such a beautiful hair. So could you give us some tips as women, because we are very conscious about our skin and health and hair quality, especially. Could you give us some tips from Ayurveda about that?
Okay, sure. So there is a little bit of makeup that plays a role here, obviously, because I'm on screen. But, I'll tell you something that you probably forgot. The skin is the largest organ in the human body. At any point in time, a full-grown adult has 3.6 to 4 kilograms of skin on them. It's bigger than your heart, liver, kidney, intestine, brain. You probably didn't give it the kind of credit it deserves because you were too busy focusing on your brain, on sharpening your money-making skills. Your skin protects your human body, your bones, tissues, muscles, and your organs. The skin is also the most porous organ of the body. It is constantly drinking what you apply on it. Just like how the sweat and the toxins come out through the pores, what you apply on the skin directly enters through the pores and enters the bloodstream. Versus food that I eat goes to the stomach, gets detoxified in the liver before entering the bloodstream. So food at least has a filter, but the products you apply on the skin and on your scalp, your hair, directly enters the bloodstream, which can cause cancer, one of the leading causes of cancer. And I tell you this because I have survived multiple surgeries. I've had 4 surgeries, 2 of which were caused due to aluminum entering my bloodstream through the pores from deodorants, causing fibrocystic benign lumps that I had to get operated for. And that was a valuable lesson. I'm not going to apply on my skin anything that I'm not willing to eat. So when you buy a skincare product, look at the ingredients and ask yourself the question, are you willing to eat this? If your answer is no, put it back on the shelf. That's not for your skin. That's not for your scalp. That's not for your hair. Apply on your skin only what you're willing to eat. So if I have to moisturize my skin, I would actually run to the kitchen, take 1 teaspoon of ghee or clarified butter and moisturize my face with it. If I have to remove makeup from my face, I would prefer massaging my face with cold pressed coconut oil or almond oil than using any of those harsh chemical based products, because of course all of us, like the rest of the women, I love wearing makeup and I look for organic products. But if I want to keep the damages of makeup to bare minimum, I must 99% of the time take care of my skin with organic products that are handcrafted, cruelty free, not tested on animals, chemical free, paraben free, sulfate free, literally made with kitchen ingredients. And when I was going through the ingredient list of the products that we had recently launched, I was joking to my manager that it looks like recipe for a khichdi or a recipe for a biryani or a pulao, right? The ingredients literally sound like the recipe for a dish. Everything from the kitchen, everything from nature, everything plant-based. That's how your skincare and haircare regime should be. You cannot use shampoos and conditioners loaded with chemicals, because let me tell you, even those straighteners and keratin treatment that you guys do, it has now been proven that it is cancerous because the chemicals enter through your pores, through the scalp, and can enter the bloodstream and can cause a lot of diseases. Psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, urticaria, skin cancer, blood cancer, fibrocystic benign limbs, malignant lumps, which is cancerous. All of these are caused due to chemicals entering through our pores into our body. So eat healthy, eat organic. Also apply on your skin only what you're willing to eat. You'll find literally all the remedies in your kitchen. So I'm more than happy to answer specific questions if you want. For dry skin, there is ghee. For a shampoo, you can instead use buttermilk, which is yogurt dissolved in water. This is a practice that women in India have used for thousands of years. Or you could use fermented rice water, which women in China and Southeast Asia have used for thousands of years to get beautiful, dark, rich hair. They never use shampoos. Fermented rice water and buttermilk is a better shampoo. Better conditioners would be apple cider vinegar dissolved in water, 1 teaspoon, or black tea cooked well. You can strain that and use that as a conditioner. For your face, there are a whole lot of masks that you can use with honey, yogurt, uncooked milk, rose water, muleti, multani mitti, a whole lot of herbs, urad dal, masoor ki dal, chane ki dal, tur ki dal, anything that you eat, you can actually crush, make a powder out of it and use it to wash your face. Except chilies. Don't use chilies to wash your face.
Thank you, Dimple, for sharing those insights. Actually, there are a lot of interesting questions already on chat that I'll try to already jump directly because people are getting really anxious to get their answers. So the first question that comes up is that, are there any recommended preventive remedies available for corona that people should pursue at this point in time during pandemic?
So there's an entire workshop that we did with S.H.E Tambe, and it's already there on YouTube. There's a whole series of herbs that I've recommended. I'll very briefly touch upon it. I would recommend that you go onto the forum Ayurveda Days 2020, which was organized by the Consulate General of India in Munich. It's a detailed seminar. So there are a whole lot of bitter, astringent, pungent herbs. I've explained why these herbs, like neem, which is a great anti-inflammatory medicine, Philanthus neruri, which is Bui Amla ka patta. There is Karela, which is bitter gourd. Then there is also spinach, celery, cilantro, moringa. There is cinnamon, cardamom, clove, grated ginger or dry ginger powder, pepper, star anise, turmeric, lemon. We literally have concoctions made out of this and sold at the hospital in India. It's mandatory for everyone to drink a kara made out of these herbs and spices twice a day in the hospitals, which is why India has the highest recovery rate when it comes to corona, despite being the second most populous country in the world. China has recovered pretty well. Wonder why? China and India. Because there's traditional Chinese medicine there. There's Ayurvedic kara and herbs and rituals that we have in our culture that allows us to battle all kinds of flu and virus and bacteria that's there in the air. So, like I said, these are the herbs that I would recommend to beat COVID. It helps you to boost your immunity against COVID. And there are also lots of people, by the way, who've recovered in India with just homeopathy and Ayurvedic medicines, even though it hasn't been converted into a vaccine per se. Just have neem capsules every day in the morning, empty stomach, one for 15 days, and you're good to go. And of course, cover your face because the bacteria or the virus enters through your nose and mouth and attacks your throat and chest. So cover your mouth at all times when you're in public places and social distancing, and you're sorted.
Thank you, Dimple, for sharing that. The next question that we have in the lineup was somebody is really interested to know that because you learned Ayurveda when you got first introduced to it, as you just told, and were there any instances where you feel really a discomfort, like a person giving you his life in hands and you are trying to cure it with Ayurveda? How was this experience as an entrepreneur and, as an advocate for Ayurveda?
Okay, so I have a lot of protocols in place. Number one, no patient meets me directly unless they have met my Vaidya, they've done their diagnosis, they've done their prescription of medicines. This is a mandatory protocol. You cannot come to me directly unless you've met my doctor. Because what I am is an Ayurvedic researcher and I bridge the gap between you and the doctor and I give you an Ayurvedic diet. This is what I specialize in. So luckily for me, when someone comes to me with for an Ayurvedic diet, they're not putting their life in my hands. So thank God for that. They do put their life in the hands of my Vaidyas and Ayurvedic doctors when they come for multiple sclerosis, paralysis, arthritis, osteoporosis, rheumatism, clinical depression, and we've seen fantastic results because it's a team effort. And we have multiple levels of quality check from the doctor to me, to the manager of the clinic who manages the treatments, to the therapist, to the written book records, so that the human error is absolutely not there. So the kind of Six Sigma policy that we follow allows us to make sure that every single patient who's entered the clinic walks out 100% recovered. It shouldn't be 80, 90. That's unacceptable for us. And we make sure to continue following up with the patient even after the treatment's over to make sure that they're eating clean and not going to come back to us with the same toxins and same disorders and diseases. But there were times, I will tell you, I woke up in the middle of the night in the first year of me starting the clinic in absolute sweat. I was like, what have I done to my life? I don't know the ABC of Ayurveda. I'm not an Ayurvedic doctor. I've not graduated in Ayurveda. I've never worked in an Ayurvedic clinic. And I've put away all my savings in starting this clinic instead of living a comfortable life around the world. What have I done? Like I would wake up in the middle of the night breaking into sweat. And I'm like, what have I done? What have I done? And then I would have to calm myself down saying, okay, the universe guided me in this direction. I'm sure the universe has a solution for this problem. My job is to just let the universe know that this is a problem. Since you chose for me to follow Ayurveda, it's your job to tell me what the solution to this problem is. So I just let the universe guide me forward. And I've been very blessed to have an amazing team of doctors, therapists, researchers, Ayurvedic, practitioners joining us and working with us. So that has been a blessing, I would say.
Dimple, is there a basic classification in traits, for example, physical or emotional, for different type of doshas to identify that? And how to deal with those emotions to keep these doshas in control?
So if you're having a lot of emotional imbalances or mental agony, anxiety, stress, overthinking, it's a clear vata imbalance. Or if you're having social isolation issues, a little bit of depression and lack of motivation and stuff lack of ambition, then that's a kapha imbalance. If you're having too much aggression, anger, irritability, short temper issues, that's a pitta imbalance. So each element has a emotion of its own. Like for example, kapha is earth and water. It's responsible for emotions like kindness, compassion, love, empathy, forgiveness, modesty. That's why kapha prakriti people make excellent doctors and teachers. They're very motherly, nourishing. Pitta personalities would have a lot of ambition, drive, focus, courage, capability, adventure spirit. So they make great entrepreneurs, business leaders, orators, and CEOs and CFOs and CMOs. Basically, someone who leads the pack, who's ahead of the gang. Then there is Vata personality, which is air and space. that is responsible, that Prakriti is, dosha is responsible for your creative skills, your ability to solve problems, your ability to create new things, art, music, dance, all that comes from Vata. Movement, a marathon runner gets his energy from Vata. We need to tap into the best of each dosha, and our aim should be to become tridoshic in nature. So I can be Pitta Vata personality. I must focus on improving my kapha to become tridoshic in nature, because that's where victory is, where all your doshas are in good health. So if you're noticing any of these negative symptoms that I mentioned before, then you will have to go on a kapha pacifying or a pitta pacifying or a vata pacifying diet chart, and you must consider meeting an Ayurvedic doctor and start medicines immediately, because if something is wrong, fix it. Don't wait for it to blow out of proportion. Don't wait for it to snowball into something massive.
Do you find it difficult to convince the value of Ayurveda, what Ayurveda holds, to a new patient, for example?
In the beginning, it was very tough. I would say, like, a lot of people we used to give free consultations to anybody who walked into the clinic. A lot of people used to walk in and walk out. I used to stand at a farmer's market every single Sunday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So this is how all my Sundays were spent: Monday to Saturday in the clinic and Sundays at the farmer's market, literally distributing pamphlets and convincing people what Ayurveda is. And this is right after having lived a glamorous life on Wall Street. And I was like, what have I done to my life? Like, I'm sweating and dripping on the farmer's market, along with all the sabji walas and the bhaji walas, distributing pamphlets, telling people, like, if you eat organic, Ayurveda is also part of your life. In the beginning, it was very challenging, very, very challenging to even convince my own friends and family. Now we have like the who's who of Bollywood and Hollywood and the business world, chasing us for Ayurvedic wisdom. And suddenly my brother calls me after 2.5 years saying, can you design a diet chart for me? I said, is it because so-and-so person has already got a diet chart from me? Is that why you want a diet chart from me? He's like, maybe. So it takes a while, but luckily for us, we are now in a position where people seek us. So that means they're already done with that journey of learning what Ayurveda is and why they need Ayurveda. And they're just coming to us for the solution. So I don't have to spend any more energy convincing them on how this will help them. They've already done the research before coming to me. So now half the job is done thanks to social media. A lot of information is floating around in a positive direction. So now it's less challenging. Of course, the first 1 year, it's like having a baby. All that the baby does is poop and have hiccups and puke and vomit and cry and not let you sleep. That's how starting a new business is. It's like having a new baby and not having any sleep at all for the first 1 year. After that, it's beautiful.
This I can associate the next question to myself, because in Germany generally we have very less sunlight, and especially for the last 3 to 4 months, and it directly impacts the mood and the energy level that we have, especially also with the low temperatures. So how should one keep up with themselves, less stressed with such external environment where you don't have your own control on?
So if the sun hasn't risen in your country, if the sun is not there, you create your own sun inside your stomach, which means you have to stimulate your Agni, your metabolic fire, which is equal to the heat outside your body. So you'll have a lot of heaty, pungent, spicy foods like cinnamon, cardamom, clove, grated ginger, pepper, star anise, turmeric. These are all heaty herbs and spices. You'll have heaty foods like, wines and alcohol is served during winters, especially during Christmas and all, to keep your body warm. I don't propose alcohol in India, obviously, for many reasons, but in a cold country like that, you can have a lot of fermented foods like fermented wine or fermented foods like sourdough bread and cheese that also increases your body heat. So you have to constantly focus on increasing your body heat so that it equates to the sun that's missing. Another thing you can do is full body massage with heaty oils like Dhanvantram Tailam, Karpradi Tailam, which is made with castor oil. That increases your body heat so much that you sweat out all the toxins. So what does the sun do? When you go out in the sun, you sweat out your toxins. So if you can stimulate that sweating through methods like Ayurvedic massage, that will help you compensate for the lack of daylight, the lack of sun, the lack of heat, the lack of warmth. What does sun give you? It gives you the warmth that you're okay, that you're safe, that you're secure. It's that warm love that you get from the sun that makes you feel very happy. So you have to create that atmosphere at home, and you also have to create that inside your body by eating all the heaty foods.
So thank you, Dimple, for sharing so well, so detailed insights in such a short time. I think they were great inputs to our daily lives. I do have two questions regarding your futuristic vision and Ayurveda as an idea in general, because as an Indian myself, parental nurturing is the primary source where we learned about basic Ayurveda techniques. Just like drinking hot water, and giving space between having food and when to drink water, etc. But all these little things, I personally feel we kind of got discipline on very late in life, because as young we are more rebellious than disciplined. But as you kind of mature, you try to integrate that into part of your lives. But I think I do understand there is a lot of benefit for kids to learn that as a practice from a very early age. So how is Prana Healthcare and yourself, what sort of initiatives are you taking or plan to take, for example, to make this possible already from a very early age, that they don't feel it's not a part, it just becomes, a part of their daily lives from the childhood itself?
So, our vision, which I've said like multiple times before, is to make Ayurveda a worldwide phenomena and a household practice that is practiced around the world, irrespective of your caste, ethnicity, creed, religion, community, country of origin, or diet or genetic conditions. That's our vision. The second thing that has happened is now, ever since we got associated with Jain deemed to be university, we have been conducting free workshops introducing children to Ayurveda right from fourth standard up to post graduation level. And we've done this workshop for at least 85 schools and colleges of Jain Group. That is 85,000 students. So at least I know 20,000 participants were awake during the workshop. So our intention now is to make Ayurveda a mandatory syllabus in all schools and colleges. We're now talking to Ayush Ministry. We're also talking to NCRT to release a book that we've already created. Hopefully that will be available in all schools and colleges. We have American school that has been approaching us to conduct workshops with American kids, introducing them to the concept of Ayurveda. And we did it for the fourth grade students, and they were so inquisitive. The 15-minute workshop ended up being like a 30-minute one, because the questions didn't stop. They're like, oh, what is the gut? What is the Agni? What is Ayurveda? And it went on. We teach our children how to be competitive, how to make money, how to get a graduation, how to get a certificate, how to be ahead of the race and everything. But if we start teaching our children how to be healthy and happy when they are kids, we will have a beautiful future, a beautiful planet that they will inherit from us. That is our vision. That is our aim, to make Ayurveda mandatory education in all schools and colleges very soon.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, because something which is, originated in India and is appreciated on a global level, this is something we should be really proud of and try to inculcate within, the younger generation from early onset. That becomes a part of their daily routine since kids. With that, Dimple, actually, I would really, really like to thank you and extend my gratitude on behalf of Indian Entrepreneur Forum today, that you spent this 1 hour with us, giving a lot of beautiful insights about your own journey, about how you created Ayurveda and how you're taking this amazing initiative of bringing that to a global ground. And we are just happy to be a small drop in the ocean, to have heard you and brought your voice to the participants all across the globe here who joined today. And thumbs up really, and hats off to you for your efforts. And it's just been lovely speaking with you today.
Thank you so much. You've been very kind, very gracious, very patient. You've gone out of the way to research all the questions. You've spent a lot of time coordinating with me. I must apologize. I probably didn't have the kind of time that I should have given you before the seminar, but it has been wonderful working with you, Neha Baheti, Ashutosh Baheti, Sanjay Tambe. It's been such an honor, such a pleasure to be on this platform, sharing whatever little we have to share about Ayurveda. And I hope with this, we can all make Ayurveda as a way of life, not something that we run to when everything else has failed. So stay strong, stay positive, and most importantly, remember we're all in this together. We're going to get through this just as smoothly as we got into it. So that's my final words to all of you. Thank you so much for being such a beautiful audience, and thank you so much for being such a wonderful host Neha.
Thank you, Dimple. Now I would like to hand over to Sanjay for the closing of the session today, and giving an introduction for the next speaker in line tomorrow.
Yes, thanks, Neha. That was a wonderful session. Also, my deepest thanks to Dimple that you found time from India. Again, for us, I mean, when you speak about entrepreneurship, and it sounds much like a business, but we are all skin deep in business. And you already told me that, or told us that the skin is the most important organ of our body, and we are all into this kind of whatever profession, business, stress, whatever it is, and we are all taking our skin into that. So it's very good to protect it, and that were wonderful tips which you gave to our audience, and we learned a lot from that. I would actually go on and go on for more sessions. I know that your time is very precious, but we'll have to come back to you again, because this subject is a never-ending one, and in such a forum like Entrepreneurs Forum, one never expects that we are going to talk about things like health, and how you can maintain those with a very traditional system, which is called old system, and still to learn here. It's much difficult to practice those things in Germany. So your practical tips would actually help our audience very much, because those are also very easily transportable to Germany. It's not only that you can do
Yeah,
it in India. So thanks for
true.
that again. That was really good. That's a real entrepreneurial spirit which you are, actually radiating, not only on the screen, but as a business, as a personality, which I liked very much. Thank you for that. We have got the next speakers, next 3 days, very interesting speakers. So if you do have time, please join in again the next few days. For the audience, I would like to say that tomorrow we have again at same time, 4 to 5 p.m. Pallavi Mishra ji, she is the head of country head of FICCI India, and yes, more speakers coming up. ief-germany.com is the website where you can join this organization if you want to, or if you have any inputs, feedbacks, please get back to us on this email ID, or call us. We are open for new ideas and inputs. And of course, thanks for joining here, and please promote this activity on Facebook or wherever you like it, on LinkedIn, and so that more friends and family can join. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening, all of you. Healthy evening, and thanks again to all of you.